Hello everyone, the topic of today's discussion is dentigerous cyst. So when we talk about a cyst, it is first defined by Kramer in 1974 as a pathological cavity which may have fluid, semi-fluid or gaseous content, and it is not created by the accumulation of pus. Sometimes the cysts are lined by epithelium, that time they are true cysts. If they are not lined by the epithelium, that time they are considered to be a pseudocyst. Now, when we talk about the components of a cyst has three basic components: the wall, that is the cystic capsule, the lumen or the cystic lumen, and the cystic epithelial lining. These three components make up a cyst. Scheer has given the classification of cyst into two broad categories: the epithelial line cyst and the non-epithelial line cyst. In the epithelial line cyst, we have further two subcategories, one of developmental origin, one of inflammatory origin. So today we'll be discussing dentigerous cyst, which is an odontogenic cyst of developmental origin. Now, when we talk about the origin of cyst, some cysts take its origin from reduced enamel epithelium, for example, dentigerous cyst and eruption cyst. Some take their origin from cell rest of serrae or basal cell hamartias, such as odontogenic keratocyst, glandular odontogenic cyst. Some take their origin from rest of Malassez, such as periapical cyst and plagiarized cyst. So today we'll be discussing dentigerous cyst, which is an odontogenic cyst, which take its histogenetic origin from reduced enamel epithelium. Now, starting with the discussion of dentigerous cyst, dentigerous cyst can be defined as an odontogenic cyst which surrounds the crown of an impacted tooth. So, the sine qua non for dentigerous cyst is the presence of impacted tooth in association with the cyst. So, this cyst is caused by the fluid accumulation between the reduced enamel epithelium and the enamel surface, which will result in the formation of a cyst in which the crown is located within the cystic lumen. Among the all developmental odontogenic cysts, it is the most common type and it is about 20% of all jaw cysts. It is usually always associated with the crown of permanent teeth. Deciduous tooth involvement is rare. So the definition of dentigerous cyst given by Scheer is the cyst which encloses the crown of an unerupted tooth by the expansion of its follicle and its attachment to the neck, that is at the cemento-enamel junction. So another important feature for the dentigerous cyst is the attachment of the lining epithelium at cemento-enamel junction. Another definition given by Schaefer is it is defined as an odontogenic cyst which surrounds the crown of an impacted tooth and they are formed because of the fluid accumulation between reduced enamel epithelium and the enamel surface. Now when we talk about its clinical presentation, according to Moshe et al., out of 100 unerupted teeth will show conversion into dentigerous cyst about 1.44% cases. However, according to Toller, out of 150 unerupted teeth, only one case may have potential to transform into dentigerous cyst. Now, when we talk about the racial predilection, there have been studies documented which says that the dentigerous cysts are more common in South African population, that too in white. So when we compare the white population with the black population, the ratio is 1.6:1. On comparing this site predilection, mandibular and the maxillary third molars are the most common site, followed by the maxillary cuspid region. And in the gender predilection, males are more commonly associated. Also, there is an order of frequency of occurrence of dentigerous cyst. The most common site is the maxillary and mandibular third molars, followed by maxillary canine, and so on. Now, when we talk about the age predilection for the cases of dentigerous cyst, more commonly they are seen in the first decade, and there is a sharp rise in the second decade. The peak reaches in the third decade. After that, there is decline in the number of cases. In the clinical presentation, usually they are slowly enlarging. There is a swelling and they are mostly solitary. However, whenever there is expansion of bone, that time there will be facial asymmetry, there will be displacement of teeth, and there is pain in association with the swelling. Usually, dentigerous cysts are solitary. However, if they are bilateral or they are multiple, they are commonly associated with some syndromes such as cleidoculin dysplasia and Maroteaux-Lamy syndrome. So, it is an important multiple choice question for your competitive exams, that if a dentigerous cyst is associated with some multiple cyst presence, then there is some syndrome. It can be cleidoculin dysplasia or Maroteaux-Lamy syndrome. Now, when we talk about the radiological presentation of dentigerous cyst, there can be three radiological variants. There can be central variety, as you can appreciate in the schematic presentation, in which the crown is enveloped symmetrically. One is the lateral variety, which results from the dilatation of the follicle on one aspect. However, there is another variety, circumferential, in which the follicle expands in such a manner that it surrounds the entire tooth. So, based on these three radiographic presentation, we have the location of the impacted tooth. For example, in central variety, the crown is enveloped symmetrically. Therefore, pressure is applied to the crown of the tooth and it is pushed away from the direction of eruption. For example, mandibular third molars may be found in the lower border of the mandible. Also, they can be found in the ascending ramus. And maxillary canine, if found associated with dentigerous cyst, they may be forced into the maxillary sinus. So in the central variety, the tooth will be pushed away from its direction of eruption. In the lateral variety, there will be, because of the dilatation of the follicle, it is usually seen in cases of impacted mandibular third molar, in which one aspect is exposed into the oral cavity, as you can appreciate in the radiographic presentation. The third presentation is the circumferential variety, in which the follicle expands and the tooth is found to be enclosed within the cystic lumen. So in all three radiographs, you can appreciate the three radiographic presentations of dentigerous cyst. Now, when we talk about the pathogenesis of dentigerous cyst, there can be extrafollicular origin or intrafollicular origin. In the intrafollicular origin, there is accumulation of fluid between the reduced enamel epithelium and the enamel organ itself. If there is development of this cyst in the early stages and it arises by the degeneration of stellate reticulum, then the dentigerous cyst will be found in association with enamel hypoplasia. Whereas if it arises after completion of crown, then there will be no associated enamel hypoplasia. Also, there is another variety, that is inflammatory follicular cyst, in which if a deciduous tooth is periapically inflamed, it will lead to the development of inflammatory follicular cyst in the permanent tooth. Another pathogenesis for dentigerous cyst is the extrafollicular theory, in which Main in 1970 elaborated that if the pressure is exerted on the erupting tooth, it will lead to the obstruction of the venous outflow. Thereby, there will be transudation of the serum, which will increase the hydrostatic pressure. And because of the increase in the hydrostatic pressure, there will be separation of the follicle from the crown with or without reduced enamel epithelium. So, because of which there will be expansion of the follicle and it will lead to the formation of dentigerous cyst of extrafollicular variety. Also, there was a concept given by Ben and Altini for the histogenetic mechanism of inflammatory dentigerous cyst. In the first schematic presentation, we can appreciate that there is a developmental dentigerous cyst which is formed from the dental follicle and it is secondarily inflamed from the deciduous tooth. So the deciduous tooth is the source of inflammation because it is non-vital, and because of this inflammation, the dental follicle gets inflamed. The second hypothesis is the extrafollicular origin, in which the radicular cyst from a non-vital deciduous tooth will lead to the eruption of the permanent tooth into the radicular cyst, because of which the dentigerous cyst will arise, and that too of extrafollicular origin. In the third schematic presentation, there is periapical inflammation from the non-vital deciduous tooth, which will spread and it will involve the follicle of the permanent tooth, which will result in the formation of dentigerous cyst. So there are three histogenetic mechanisms given by Ben Altini. One is for the follicular origin, extrafollicular origin, and inflammatory dentigerous cyst. Now, when we talk about the macroscopic or the gross examination, the first and the most important point is the attachment of the lining at CG, and the impacted tooth is enclosed in the cystic lumen. And when we take the aspirate of this cyst, it will be a clear cystic fluid, which is watery, straw colored. Sometimes it can be blood tinged. Also, in the aspirate, we can appreciate inflammatory infiltrations. In the histopathological presentation, this cyst is a thin, non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium lining cyst with a thin connective tissue wall. So when we see the histopathology, there will be 2 to 4 cell layer thick non-keratinized epithelium and the epithelial connective tissue interface is flat. The dentigerous cyst shows a thin non-keratinized lining And the associated capsule, the connective tissue capsule, will show loose fibrous stroma. Sometimes there can be myxomatous areas as well. So the lining of a dentigerous cell will resemble to that of the lining of reduced enamel epithelium, and it will be a flat layer of stratified epithelium, and there can be presence or absence of inflammatory cells in the underlying connective tissue capsule. However, if there is inflamed dentigerous cyst, in such cases the epithelium will show hyperplastic changes. There will be increase in the thickness of the epithelial lining. Also, there will be hyperplastic rete The connective tissue interface, which was flat in the normal dentigerous cyst, will be found hyperplastic in cases of inflammatory origin cyst, and the capsule will show presence of diffuse chronic inflammatory cells. So when we compare the histopathology of developmental dentigerous cyst to that of inflamed dentigerous cyst, the developmental dentigerous cyst will show thin lining, and there will be presence of chronic inflammatory infiltrates in diffuse manner, and it is arise from the impaction of the maturity. Whereas the inflamed dentigerous cyst will show thick epithelial lining with hyperplastic retipex. There can be presence of nests and islands of odontogenic rest in the connective tissue capsule, and there will be dense inflammatory infiltrates. And the source for the origin of dentigerous cyst will be from the inflammation of a non-vital deciduous tooth. Now we talk about the treatment. If the lesion is small, there is enucleation with the removal of unerupted tooth. However, in cases of large cysts, there will be marsupialization, which permits the decompression of the cyst. Therefore, it will result in the reduction in the size of the defect. However, the prognosis is good for cases of dentigerous cyst, but there can be some potential complications which are associated with the cases of dentigerous cyst. The one complication is the origin of ameloblastoma from the lining of the cyst. Second is the development of epidermoid carcinoma. Third is the development of mucoepidermoid carcinoma from the lining epithelium, which contains mucous cells. So although the prognosis is good, but a dentigerous cyst can transform into these three complications: ameloblastoma, epidermoid carcinoma, and mucoepidermoid carcinoma. They're important for your competitive exam to remember the complications of dentigerous cyst. So to summarize, a dentigerous cyst is the one which encloses the crown of an unerupted tooth. Important point that it is always associated with impacted tooth, and the lining is attached to the neck, that is at cemento-enamel junction. When we talk about its histogenetic origin, it is reduced enamel epithelium. It is the most common odontogenic cyst of developmental origin. Males are more commonly affected. The most common site is the mandibular and maxillary third molar area, followed by the canine region. The most cases are seen in the second decade. When we talk about its pathogenesis, there can be extrafollicular origin or intrafollicular origin. It has three radiological variants. One is the central variety, lateral variety, and circumferential variety. When we see the aspirate, it will be clear, straw-colored. Sometimes it can be blood-tinged. When we see the histopathology, it is non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium with 2 to cell layer thick, flat cuboidal cells. The epithelial and tissue interface is flat, whereas in cases of inflamed cyst, it can show hyperplastic retipex, and the connective tissue capsule is loose. Treatment is enucleation and marsupialization. Thank you.